can never let the sleeping dogs lie of the civil war, because we need to interrogate these matters for Nigeria to have essence. We can never let it lie. You are still carrying wounds from the war. A lot of people are still carrying wounds from the war. We can never let it lie. And I'll give you 2 instances. Do you think his apology is coming because the same fates people from that area helped the Igbo suffered, his people are suffering that fate today with the level of killings of his people? Do you think that apology came from that level of thinking and contrition? Secondly, we can't allow the sleeping dog lie, because the sentiments in town, and I'm happy you mentioned Chief Alex Ekwueme, a man that I met and I adored so much, that had a path to presidency after the second term of Shehu Shagari. But that was also scuttled because some people were talking about the sentiment of his race as at that time. Do you know that that sentiment also came to be again when the formation of the PDP started in 1998? And Alex Ekwueme had a right to be able to go for it and vie for the presidency of this nation. But again, his race, conversation that snowed back into the civil war, came out again. And that's why we can't forget about this matter. So please just help us juxtapose these 2 things. Do you think Mufwang is now making this apology because in place of contrition, because the fate the Igbo suffered then, his people too are also suffering it now?
Hussaini, let me tell you something. I
want to learn from you this morning.
In we went to Jos at the first PDP convention that finally brought Olusegun Obasanjo as our candidate. Shehu Shagari had organized all the northern delegates and came into Jos to support Alex Ekwueme. And I'm happy that he's still alive. Ibrahim Babangida had to intervene and called all the northern leaders that if Alex Ekwueme was allowed to be president, it will make nonsense the coup they carried out that removed him and Shehu Shagari. That was why we lost the convention, the presidential primary in Jos. So we all went into, I think it was Jos Hilton Hotel or something, and most of us weeping. Is that what happened? And Shagari said he has done his best, that the military was still running their affairs, instructing people what to do in parts of the country. But most importantly, Hussaini, let me tell you something. There's a situation we find ourselves, and you start to ask, why is it that God brought all of us in this country? If we cannot explain why or ask any question why God did that, I would have thought that in the end of the Civil War, now we have 6 component parts of this country. Gowon is still alive. Can the governors or the president, if they are sincere to themselves, if we are not shred of investigative hypnosis, this is what I think is going on. Can the 6 component zones in this country sit down, analyze properly, say what their different interests are, and then bring them to a common point where every group will try to harmonize for the better interest of this country? I still remember the Oputa Commission. There was nothing that needs to be said that was not said in the Oputa Commission up to today. No government has dared to take up any side of what he said for the betterment of this country. So it is difficult for me to begin to imagine whether we are really sincere as a people that we need one Nigeria. When the war ended, General Gowon said, no victor, no vanquished. But I don't know whether the meaning of that English, whether it still applies. Because the Southeast, principally in this country, whether anybody likes it or not, we are, neglected. We're not taken in as, people of one country because we fought a civil war. But statements like this from the Plateau governor also tells you that there are people who have varying views. We didn't start the war. I don't know how old you were by the time the crisis started in the north. That singular coup happened because the 3 regions were moving slightly apart. And the time I met with late Major General Hassan Usman Katsina, when he was Deputy Chief of Staff to General Way, he told me that they all supported the coup. That they all supported it too. The only thing that what happened was after the coup, some elements in Kaduna, after Ahmadu Bello was killed, somebody else was killed in the west, and Emma Yokbara was not killed in the east. And I said Emma Yokbara couldn't have been killed in the east because a head of state was visiting the east and was with Emma Yokbara, then the Archbishop Makarios of Cyprus. That was the only reason why that coup wasn't complete. And so it was difficult to convince people that it wasn't an Igbo coup. But honestly, people who were involved in that process will tell you no, that the military was just trying to save Nigeria from the governors, from the premiers who were moving slightly apart. And they didn't think it was going to be good for the overall interests of this country. So what I think we need now, if we are going to be sincere, not just people taking public office and sharing money, is for us to sit down, discuss the fate of this country, how we can move this country forward, and implement what we have discussed. It was one thing to discuss and arrive at some, principles of, discussion, and we are not able to implement it. Then it's useless wasting all the time talking about one Nigeria. One Nigeria in 774 local governments, water is not running anywhere, and we are not ashamed, all of us collectively, we are not ashamed that we haven't made any progress towards the interests of the common man. So it's no more a question of trying to validate or not to validate what happened in the past. But today, what can we do to make things better? This is one topic I would have loved, like the phraseology goes, let the sleeping dog lie. 56 years after the Civil War, young people, elderly people are beginning to forget the processes of what happened. And for me, who participated seriously in that conflict, I was a commander of a battalion till the end of the war in 1970. I lost a lot of friends, a lot of relations. It's very painful. I do not know the context. He had to make that kind of statement addressing the Igbo community in Jos. Essentially, I know that there are many Igbos, in their thousands, who have been in Plateau long before the Civil War and up to now. So whether he did that for political advantage, I don't know. But I would say that every leader who is elected by his people takes a vow of unsurpassed devotion to duty. Part of this vow, comes in principle that you have to bring leadership to have some strategic discipline and not making comments that could usher in new lines of debate. Because I normally say that when you combine political, ignorance with unyielding arrogance, what you have is, political blindness. And this political blindness could usher in some kind of stoking paranoia. People will have to explain it in different directions. And 56 years after, I don't think that is what we need now. But it's important that he had to say that. Because most of the people who were hurt, killed, or maimed, it did not happen in the far north. Certainly not from Sokoto to Kano and all those areas. People who were coming home, most of them were killed in what was called the Benue Plateau area. And that's why people like us joined the Biafran Army very early, because if you go to the railway station and see people coming out of the train with one hand, one eye, open limbs, there's nothing we weren't seeing. And you were asking, is this one country? That was what prompted Ojukwu also in making certain declarations he made out of anger, even though you don't have to have leadership out of anger. So what I would say is that something must have informed the governor in altering the apology. We accept it. Unfortunately, whether it will resurrect those who have died, it will not. But it's important that someday the truth will be told, and the truth is coming out, that the Civil War was not necessary. If you look at what happened in Aburi Accord, General Gowon signed everything Aburi Accord, and really to come back to the uselessness of what he did. Probably he didn't understand what was going on there. And look at the book he wrote. You see a lot of convenient amnesia, half-truths and, releases that were not in accord with what happened in the Civil War. Because before Ojukwu died, he would have written his book when Ojukwu was still alive. Before General Ojukwu died, he was making a lot of comments about the Civil War, and Gowon never replied him. But for Gowon to come out now and issue his kind of brand of, I call that investigative hypnosis, because he knows now that nobody is going to challenge him. in what he has said. It's unfortunate that we'll have to resurrect dead matter that will not help Nigeria anymore building a future of love for all of us. Look at the crisis we have. There's almost a civil war in Zamfara, Sokoto, and Kebbi areas. There's war in Plateau. All over the place. There are, recently in Oyo State, a lot of kidnapping, killing of a headmaster. The country is filled up with a lot of problems. We don't need, this kind of dialectic profiling. So I will wish that this country will continue moving forward. God did not make mistake to put all of us in this environment. Only He knows. And if God has done that, honest leadership, and which Gowon is one of them, should be able to put love amongst our people and not be divisive, trying to justify what you did. This is not the kind of trying to justify whether you were right or wrong. How do you justify those who died on both sides? Did they know what happened? So it's unfortunate reading his book too, that he was being clever by half.
All right.
Well, I asked you another question about the PDP. Is the PDP alive or dead?
Sorry?
The 2027 general election process.
My friend Dr. Betty, how can you say life or death? Each time I would have left the PDP before now, but each time I remember that I was standing behind Dr. Alex Ekwueme of blessed memory, and two other people behind him, and Atiku Abubakar was on the other side with his people, and PDP was formed. Each time I remember that, I find it difficult to want to think I should exit. Even at the last party meeting we attended, I said my views. So I don't know. What I can tell you that the party is in, what medical people will call intensive care units. Whether to survive from it, I don't know, because our national leader is the minister of FCT, so I don't know how he's going to, relate being national leader of PDP and a minister in Tinubu's government. But also recently has also shown that he's a serious PDP member, because a major senatorial election was held in Rivers State and he delivered. And he also delivered at least one major, I think a senatorial seat in Abuja or something. So it's difficult to actually, analyze effectively what is going on. It is about at least about 4 or 5 months to the election. I hope that from what I see, that there was an election in Adamawa State, and the governor delivered everybody who came out PDP. So there's still some serious hope that in the next couple of months, there might be some kind of serious sit-down thinking that will make us realign to know how to face this government. This interview is not about Tinubu's, what he is doing, but because all he promised, I haven't seen one come to fruition. This was a man who in I think when Jonathan was president, led a serious demonstration in Lagos and some parts of this country, challenging the governance. What has he done differently?
Okay.
774 local governments. Not only his fault, water is not running anywhere. I don't know whether it's running in your village. If we have to have a political revolution in this country, 21st century,
not a village,
since 1978, how can we say that our people, somebody saying something?
Yes, I was just correcting.
How can we say that in 21st century, water is not running in any local government?
Okay.
Sorry?
Oh. Well, I was just trying to set the record straight. That is from a city and not from a village. But let me come in here, sir, since you're talking about, I know you say that you already mentioned that this conversation is not about evaluating the president's performance, even though you've delved into it a little. But since you're talking about the PDP and hopeful that it would resurrect, you have set your alignment with the Wike-led faction of the PDP. But this faction is in support of the president that you're saying hasn't done well. So they're saying that they are putting their support behind President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's second term in office. Are you in agreement with that? If that is, because that is where you align with, do you also align with their choice of a presidential candidate? That's one. Then number two is that you said something when you were responding to Governor Caleb Mutfwang's apologies to the Igbo. You said this is not what we need now. What do you need now? Because there seems to be that, engendering goodwill with the Southeast. The First Lady was there. She has promised to wear fabric from that region if elected for a second term. There's a courting, as it were. What is needed now, since that conversation has come up again based on the governor's apology?
Well, this is a very long lecture, but let me pick the ones I remember from what you had just said. If in the last interview I had with your station, I did say that it was wrong for the FCT minister, being the national leader of PDP, to also prematurely, 4 months ago, declare support for Tinubu. Even though he's serving under his government, he would have waited until the election is closed, and he will give reasons why he's supporting him. He has every right as a human being, as a Nigerian citizen, but not as national leader of the People's Democratic Party. That was something demoralizing for a lot of us. But he's my friend, and I have to say it. Even in the last meeting we had, I said it too. And we arranged to meet, but unfortunately we never met. But that is it is for his conscience to know whether as leader of the PDP, whether what he's doing is righteous, it is right for the majority of our people, to encourage our people to want to run for public office, so that we don't lose hope completely.
Okay, then I asked that, what do you...
I don't know whether that answers your question.
Yes, that answers the first part. I mean, the second part around your statement in response to Governor Mutuang's apologies to the Igbos. You said that's not what we need now. What do you need now then?
Well, what I'm saying is that, that apology, interesting and instructive as it is, will kind of make a lot of people in the Southeast happy that somebody who is a northern governor from the north central part of this country, actively in government, had to make that kind of recognition